Greetings, this is July 13th, 1 p.m., and activity is getting busy out there. There's been some expansion in a few existing fire zones and a few new hotspots. If you can, I recommend you sign up for the NASA Firms Fire Email Alert. This alert was generated for new hotspots on the Suomi system a few kilometers northeast of Chasm. When hotspots are detected, an alert along with a map can be sent directly to your email. So I go to their selection of different areas they cover. I selected Chasm Park. Now any heat or fire detections within about a 15-kilometer radius get sent directly to me. And if we jump over to the Fire Information for Resource Management System, this is firms put out by NASA, we can see 3 Suomi hotspots generated to the northeast of Chasm. It's along what appears to be the Clinton-Loon Lake FSR, and it's in a forested block outside the park boundary. Jumping over to Windy, we can see it's coming from the east at 2 kilometers an hour. That's negligible. There could be potential wind shifts increasing the velocity, and if we look on the forecast, there are increasing wind speeds, and primarily from the south and southwest. So it could be pushing it away from the chasm, but if you're north of that fire area up towards 70 Mile House and up into the Interlakes area, you want to be aware. Windy also has a lot of the highway cams hooked up, and here we're looking at an image from Big Bar looking north, and we can see this haze. Now, last check, I didn't see notification of this as a fire on BC WILDFIRE, but it is showing up on the infrared. There's multiple spots. These are 375 meter indications, and they're showing that there was heat detected somewhere within those squares. Next, we'll move north and west. This is to the Flat Lake area, west of Highway 97, about the same latitude as 83 Mile. We are seeing potentially some expansion to the south. Winds have been coming from the southeast on Windy. However, there is a tendency to change wind directions. I read the report on BC WILDFIRE. They're tying in lines and trying to connect between lakes and natural fire breaks, so to limit the spread of this. But it does appear to be still, if holding, it does appear to have a fair number of infrared in that area. Winds look to be primarily from the south and from the west, but it's kind of all over the place. There's a lot of change in direction, so check your access if you're in that region. Next, we're hopping over to the east of Ashcroft. This is on the hillside, heading up towards the area north of Logan Lake, and we can see there are multiple hotspots on that hillside. There are all 4 satellite systems selected, so we're actually seeing 4 times the data, but at least we're catching all the information. Winds are very slight right now. They're coming from the west about 1 kilometer an hour, so heat and smoke should be drifting away from Ashcroft. Looking at the forecast, there could be an increase in the afternoon, lots of gusts, mostly from the south and the west. So if you're north and east of this area, you want to be aware of what your access routes are, and check with BC WILDFIRE in the links below to make sure you're aware of what sort of evacuation orders and alerts and what activity they're doing on the ground. Moving north across Highway 1 to the area east of Deadman River Vedette Road, we are looking at an expansion eastward. This is going across Red Lake. And we had notification from viewer Leslie, thank you very much, that an evacuation order is now in effect for the Alpine Valley, and power lines may be disrupted. This is a scenario where access is limited on the Chris Creek Tranquil Road, so do be careful if you're in that area and check for the evacuation alerts and orders in the links below. The Sparks Lake fire is quite vast. We're just going to hop to the very north end. We're north of Vedette. We're at Young Lake and east of the lake, and I am noticing increased infrared there. Winds in the region are coming about 3 kilometers from the west, from the southwest as well. But again, winds are shifting, they're moving around throughout the day, and the gusts in the afternoon can change. The forecast shows us prevalent winds from the west and the southwest and increasing in the afternoon. Looking ahead to Friday, they could be well above 30 kilometers an hour. So if you're on the receiving end of that, make sure that you know what your access routes are and consider what vegetation and terrain is between you and the fire line, because winds can shift and change quite rapidly. There's been a lot of activity recently around the south end of Canim Lake, and here we're looking to the southeast. This is north of Decca, southeast of Canim Lake. All 4 satellite systems are indicated, so we're seeing multiple sets of data, but it does look busy. There's some significant clusters in the lake areas. It's really difficult to tell if it's crossed Buffalo Creek. The labeling is not the greatest on some of these maps, so rather than take a guess, go to BC Wildfire and check out what their recommendations are if you're in the area or east of the area. Windy was showing wind coming from the northwest, 2 kilometers an hour. The wind gusts stay fairly steady. They do taper off in the early hours when the temperature is cooler, but they will pick up and primarily coming from the west, blowing to the east. We're zooming out now, looking at the province. There are increased wind speeds in the interior, the central interior of the province, but wind direction is variable. You could be on one side of a valley and it's blowing from the west. If you're on the other side of the valley, it's coming from the east. So depending on your location, whether you're on the western side or the eastern slope, the wind condition will be different. I want to thank you all very much for watching, and to thank those of you who have been adding to the comments with conditions in your area. That's very helpful, and it helps to confirm the data that we're seeing on screen. It's one of those days where things are popping, and if you have wings and an access to a good pond, it might be a day to be there. Also, I want to express a thanks to the wildfire crews out there dealing with this. There's a lot of diverse regions, different terrain, different fire zones are calling for multiple resources. So for anyone out there in some of these wilderness areas, do please be safe and let friends and relatives know where you're at, and keep your nose to the breeze.